Hey guys, it's Joe from Pocketnow.com, and we all know that the myTouch 4G from T-Mobile is a really fast phone, but just how fast is it? Well, let's go take a look. Alright, this is the T-Mobile myTouch 4G, and it is one of their fastest phones available today. And let me tell you, just in everyday use, this phone is ridiculously fast. There are a couple different ways to measure fastness. The first one is the Quadrant benchmark scores. And I know we've talked a bit about that before, but basically a quadrant, or excuse me, a benchmark is a series of tests that are standard throughout all phones. So you can run Quadrant on any phone. It'll run the same set of tests, and based on how well it performs, it'll spit out a number. Now, the way it spits out that number is subject to debate, but it gives us a way to compare apples to oranges and let us know what phone is faster than some other phone. So what I've done here is I've done a factory reset on the phone, and I've gone in and I've turned off the screen timeout, turned the brightness all the way up, and installed Quadrant. Now, to do that, I also had to put in my Gmail and Google credentials, so it's been pulling in some apps and whatnot. But right now the processor is really asleep and it's ready to go. This is the standard version of Quadrant, so let's go ahead and run that now. The reason that I run the standard version of the Quadrant benchmark utility rather than the full advanced version is because most people out there like you and me are going to run this version. It's free, it's in the market, you can download it and install it on your Android phone and get all the results back. The advanced version basically shows you in detail what each one of these tests is scoring in relation to the whole, which is good information to have, but it's just not information that a lot of you are going to say when, I mean, if you get a phone and your friend has a phone and you both run Quadrant, you're not going to say, hey look, mine's 3 times as fast as yours in System I/O. You're just going to look at the bottom line, and that's what I'm showing you here. And you can see it's running through the tests very well. I mean, we're running at 57 frames per second on that last test. This one's at 20 frames per second. Which is still very good for this test. And at the end we have to send our results off and get them back, and if you can see that there, the Quadrant score is 1,911, which is right in line with the scores that I've been getting previously. Now, with all benchmarking utilities, you want to run these through several times to be able to well, get a high watermark. Sometimes you'll have processes running in the background that you don't know about that will affect your score, but even still, over 1,900 points, you can see that's significantly faster than the Nexus 1 running Android 2.2. So really good. Now, of course, that's only half of the speed test. And this phone, since it is a 4G phone, or what T-Mobile calls a 4G phone, the other half of this is how fast is the speed. Now, there are two ways to test that. First is over wireless, and I'm over HSPA, though not necessarily over HSPA+, but I do have full bars. So we're going to go ahead and run that test, and then we're also going to turn on Wi-Fi and we'll run the test there so you can see how fast the 802.11n works over my wireless at my house, which is using a cable modem. So it's relatively fast. This is speedtest.net. It's an app that's available free in the market, and what it does is it loads up this app that has a various number of servers that you can download and upload a predetermined sized file from the internet to your device and from your device to the internet, and measure how fast the internet is. Now, there are 3 different settings that I'll get into, or 3 different measures of speed that I'll get into, but first I want to show you what I've done. I report everything here in kilobits per second, not kilobytes per second, not megabits per second, but kilobits, because sometimes you'll have slower stuff that, you know, you're only going to be getting 100, 200 kilobits per second, and it's easier to tell basically the speed differences without getting into decimals and megabits and yada. I've had some other people say that they've been confused with that. So we're doing it all in kilobits per second. I've also changed the server to Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, normally it's going to pick either the closest server to you or pick one at random. And I've seen different results. Because the internet is the way it is, you can go very different routes from one place to another one, and due to that you might have, you know, a server that's, say, in Modesto, California that seems a lot closer than in Salt Lake City, Utah, which obviously is the closest one to me as the crow flies, but as the network bits travel, it might be something different. But just to level out the playing field, I've got that set to Salt Lake City, Utah, and then of course we'll run the test. First, it runs a test for latency, and you can see here T-Mobile right now is running 164, which is a little bit high for them, but very good compared to some of the others like Sprint and AT&T. Download speed is 2,254 kilobits per second. Upload speed test is still completing, 854. Now again, like a benchmark test, you want to make sure you run this a couple times. These scores aren't bad. In fact, they've been improving in my area recently quite a bit. In fact, they've almost doubled. But it's still nowhere near where I'd expect a 4G speed. So we'll run this again. And again, you want to do this too. You want to run it 2 or 3 or 4 times. You can see here I'm now at 4,174 kilobits per second download. My ping time is 108 milliseconds, and my upload is 900 kilobits per second. We'll do one more just for good measure. And again, this is someplace that does not officially have HSPA+, so I'm seeing, you know, on average between 2 and 5 megabit per second. Again, you can see here 4,306. My ping time was a little bit high in this instance, which meant there's probably some network congestion somewhere along the line, but my upload speed came up quite a bit. So make sure you run these tests several times through and you can see what I mean. Obviously, very, very fast phone. It does very well even at 2 bars. I'll still have in the several hundred kilobit per second range. So that's very good for when you want to stream media, for when you want to upload video and whatnot. The only problem we have there is YouTube kind of has a limit on how big video sizes you can upload. But watching T-Mobile TV on this, listening to Pandora, it's great, absolutely wonderful. But how's this going to do over Wi-Fi? Well, it does have 802.11n, so let's take a look and see how that performs. Okay, now what I've done is I've turned on my Wi-Fi, and you can tell that up here, my H for HSPA has been changed into a Wi-Fi signal, and I've got 3 out of 4 bars, even though I'm only about 20 feet away from the antenna. So that shouldn't impact our performance that much. Let's go ahead and run it with the same settings. And you can see very quickly this is really fast, 45 milliseconds and 12,702 kilobits per second. Download speed 4,337 kilobits. Upload speed. Again, let's run it again just to make sure that that wasn't a fluke. Ping time 47 milliseconds. Download is 8.3 megabits per second and upload is 3.8. Last time for good measure. Now again, we run this because this is wireless. It's not like a wire where you're pretty well insulated, you're pretty well protected from interference. If somebody turns on a microwave, these speeds are going to fluctuate. So here again, 45 milliseconds, which is about right for my Comcast.net cable modem. And I'm getting just shy of 10 megabit per second down and about 3.5 megabit per second up, which is really good. Now, the way that I'm doing that, this is nowhere near what 802.11n will max out at. I mean, that's 300 megabits per second, and obviously this is not anywhere near that. But when you get up to the end technologies, your speeds are going to increase over, say, your 802.11g or 802.11b. And I know a lot of people are saying, why on earth do I need 300 megabit per second down to my phone? Well, as you can see here, you're not getting that on any phone, really. But what you are doing is you're using those newer technologies and the better ways of communicating, even though it's over the same frequency, so your throughput is going to be increased. What that means is you're going to have better experiences when you're surfing the web. It's going to be faster. I've got an addiction to StumbleUpon, so everything you stumble is going to be faster. You've got all of your videos, especially T-Mobile TV, which you do have to activate without Wi-Fi on first. And then once you've activated your device, basically, once it knows who your phone is, then it'll let you watch this over Wi-Fi, which is a complaint I've had with Android-based TV programs in the past. But this one, it's got it almost entirely worked out. Pandora, of course, streaming over this, even in high quality, works fabulously. But why do you want to have these kinds of speeds on a phone? Well, here's the main reason, and I know this is getting a little bit off topic for this video, but I wanted to show you. This is the T-Mobile Wi-Fi calling. And of course, I can view the tutorial, which I don't want to. I'm already connected to Wi-Fi, so it's listing that there. And I can now turn this on. Now, every single phone call that I make and receive while I am under this recognized Wi-Fi network is going to be over Wi-Fi instead of over the T-Mobile network. Now, if you've got a minutes-based plan, be advised that calls that you make and receive over Wi-Fi are still going to count against those minutes. I'm lucky enough to have an unlimited plan. Well, lucky enough, I pay for it, and I pay rather handsomely for it. But those minutes are still unlimited minutes, and I'm good to go. Now, why does T-Mobile still count those against you? Well, you're still using their network. Even though you're not using their cellular tower, you're still using their infrastructure. You're still using their voice over IP network, which they've had out for quite a while, just not available to many cell phones. And that's been because the platforms really haven't been that stable and the connection to the device hasn't been that reliable. Once we get up into 802.11n, which this has, your speeds really start to improve and your phone calls start to get a lot better. Now, what I like about this, if I come over here to my dialer, and that's all this is my stock dialer. If I dial a phone number, you don't see anything different at all. This is all just your stock dialer. I don't have to say, oh, I want to make this over Wi-Fi, or I want to make this over cellular. It's all transparent. Once you've set it up, if you're under Wi-Fi, it's going to be a call over Wi-Fi, and if it's over, you know, your regular cellular network, it's going to be over regular cellular. Now, you notice there I said or. And that's kind of a big thing to know. If I get onto a call right now, I'm on Wi-Fi, and this Wi-Fi is going to be, I mean, the call's going to be great. It's been fabulous so far, unless you don't have very good signal. So I'd recommend definitely have a B or have a G or an N connection, not a B, because B is a little bit too slow and has too much latency. So you want to have definitely G or N for your wireless, although it will work over B. I just don't really recommend it because you want to have that extra speed, that lower latency and that extra throughput both up and down to be able to make and receive these calls. The one disadvantage that you have to this is if I get on a call right now and I'm talking to someone and I walk out the door, get in my car and start driving down the street, as soon as I lose this Wi-Fi connection, I lose my call. Now, that's because handing off between Wi-Fi and cellular and Wi-Fi is a little bit complicated, though it can be done, but the big complication comes in billing. And I don't understand that since this still counts against your minutes, but basically what happens is if I started on a Wi-Fi bubble and I leave and I go to cellular bubbles, well then it's all, since the call started on Wi-Fi, it thinks that the whole call is Wi-Fi rather than, well, you had 2 minutes under Wi-Fi and 20 minutes under cellular or vice versa. And then if you started under cellular and came into Wi-Fi, well, you started cellular, so you're going to get billed cellular and it's going to switch over to Wi-Fi. That's the way it's been in the past. And that's when the Wi-Fi calling was just a flat $10 a month. You paid $10 and you got unlimited incoming, outgoing calls over Wi-Fi. Not anymore. But now you can't do the handoff. So I'm a little confused over why we don't have the handoff when the billing side, which was really the only technical issue with the technology, was removed. But that's neither here nor there. We'll just keep on going. Obviously, very, very cool. Now, this is just voice, and you notice there's nothing in here regarding a face. There's no picture, there's no camera, but we've got this front-facing camera right there. And in one of my upcoming videos, I'm going to show you a Kik call. Now, this does come preloaded with a T-Mobile version of Kik. If I can find it in here, they call it Kik Video Chat right there. T-Mobile preloads that, and it's really cool, and I want to show you that over HSPA network here, and if I can, to a Sprint 4G network if I can get that to work out. So make sure you stay tuned to our channel, subscribe if you haven't done so already, give this video a thumbs up if you'd like to continue to see more in-depth speed videos, and obviously for Pocketnow, I'm Joe Levi.